Hello everyone, we're doing a surprise live. I have a very special guest going to join me. My connection is not very good, so hopefully I don't get disconnected. Hey everyone. I am going to have a very special guest joining me tonight. It is actually the very first Free Britney account that ever alerted me to the Free Britney movement, and probably actually quite a few people. Last night I was talking to Timo Spears, and Timo Spears actually gave this person a shout out, and so I'm just going to wait for a couple more people to come and wait for him to join. But the special surprise guest tonight, I think very timely, is going to be Moonwalk Mars. We met originally on TikTok, and that was the only person I really saw talking about Free Britney at the time because I was learning from TikTok. So we're gonna have Mars Monroe join us tonight, and just as soon as oh look, here he is. Okay, how do I let him in? Go back. Gonna come on here, waiting. We're just gonna talk a little bit about how I got into the Free Britney movement. Hi Mars.
Hi, how are you?
Eyebrows. Cool.
Thank you. Your eyebrows are on today. They're actually here.
You look great. Thank you for coming to my channel, my lowly Instagram, TV, live, whatever.
Stop. Oh my goodness. You're wonderful, and I'm so grateful for you.
So yeah, I was just telling everyone before you came on, you were actually the very first Free Britney account I ever came across. You were the first video, was the one I'm sure you know, with Britney in the yellow shirt, spinning around with the bouquet of flowers. Actually, this is the first time that you and I have ever spoken. So everyone is watching us meet for the first time.
Yes.
Yes. So I want to thank you for all of the work that you put on TikTok, especially, a couple months ago, and really being a fantastic advocate. And, I saw, people aren't always nice to you. I've been accepted into the movement with open arms, but I noticed that, you do experience, like I saw myself, the comments, experience a little bit of hate, but despite all of that, you maintain this sort of professionalism. And I think that is something that should be commended. And I want to tell you that your work, I am in this movement. And I just wanted to bring you on and tell you that. And I wanted to talk to you about why you're in the Free Britney movement and what kind of keeps you, Timo Spears asks this question all the time on his lives, like what keeps you going in the movement to the extent that you are?
I love Timothy. He's the best. But thank you so much. Yeah, it's definitely not fun sometimes when you feel like everyone has a sort of opinion about how you should be speaking about things. You're not like, you're not talking about it enough, and then I talk about it, and then it's like you're talking about it too much. You're not speaking about it in the right way. And it's just very difficult, especially when, I was doing other things before this as well. And I think that it's difficult when people expect one thing from you, and when you don't provide that, all of a sudden everyone turns against you. And that for me has been super difficult, and trying to kind of socially recover from that while still being able to talk about what's important. I think that has been the biggest challenge, and I'm still working on it, and it's still not fun, but it's still something that I just have to continue pushing past so that I can get to a place where I feel like I am successful and I am at least respected by others. Because I think I don't expect to be some beloved public figure, but I do expect to be respected. And I think that a lot of people have said some very disparaging things about me personally, as well as about my efforts towards the movement. And I just think that that's not fair. But I would like to just, clear the air when it comes to who I am, what I do, why I, love what I do when it comes to the movement, and why it's important to me. So I guess that's what we're here to talk about today.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
Opening up about that. I do wonder what, kind of your feelings are about Sam Ingham's recent court filing. I don't know if you've had the chance to read through. I know there was a ton of documents filed last week. But one of those documents came from, you know, Britney's perspective, or, you know, from her lawyer. And it said explicitly, you know, the Free Britney movement is far from a conspiracy. So it was kind of nice, right, to get that little bit of validation in a court document. In my opinion, it kind of married two worlds. And I think that's kind of what we're doing here today. It's like, for a while, there was kind of two camps in the Free Britney movement that was kind of like, it's the color of her shirt and eyelashes and Photoshop. And then there were other people that were saying, like, we have 12 years of legal documents. And I feel like that court filing kind of brings those two things together and says, we see you people being called conspiracy theorists, you know, and I know Jamie called everyone a conspiracy theorist. He called the whole movement a conspiracy theorist, but theory, right? But the court documents have basically said, no, it's not.
I think that there was one word in the documents that were released that really stuck out to me particularly, and that word was informed. There was a quote that said that Britney appreciates the informed support of her fans. And I think that I think that that's not a word that should be overlooked, because it implies that it's not misguided support. It's not just blind support. It's not just, you know, she appreciates people being passionate, but, you know, you should maybe direct your efforts elsewhere. It implies that this is real and that we are on the right track, which I think is some sort of confirmation that's super important. I thought that probably one of the most idiotic things that could have happened was for Jamie Spears to give an interview. And I think that it was also not a very wise move to put Brian on some sort of public stand to give an interview instead. I think in one way it paid off, because we were able to find out that Britney has always wanted to get out of the conservatorship, something that we've already known, but has been confirmed by someone who is so close to her. But it also created a lot of loopholes, because he shot his own credibility multiple times throughout the interview with his lack of consistency and his choice to contradict himself with every single thing that he said. So I just thought that that was really problematic for the team. And I think that this is exactly what I expected to happen, what I predicted to happen, is that Britney's team has been panicking. They don't know exactly how to respond to this. And so we're seeing quite a few, in my opinion, missteps. And this is when we see people who have hidden behind a mask, that mask starts to crack apart and it starts to break. So I think that that's really important.
That same court document, we have Sam Ingham saying, Jamie Spears has made a deliberate effort to keep, you know, information from the public.
And he said meaningful information. That was also important as well.
That's right. I don't have the best word for word memory. Thank you, clocked.
No, I mean, I totally get it.
I have to quote something and it's like I missed the most important.
Well, it's not exact. There's just certain keywords that stick out to me. I totally get it. I have PTSD, so I have like problems with memory, so I totally understand, but I just try my best to, like, there's certain words that stick out to me that I remember over anything else. So you're filling in the gaps. We're filling in the gaps for each other, so I get it. So exactly, right. Especially right, meaningful information. So I mean, it's not a speculation, it's not a conspiracy theory. We have it in writing, black and white, filed in a court of law under penalty of perjury, that Jamie Spears is alleged to have been intentionally sealing documents in order for that information to be kept from the public, not to protect Britney, not to protect her privacy or her rights, but to keep us from being able to look into this case. Especially, I thought it was really interesting because, as you know, there are certain levels of professionalism that have to be maintained when making an official court statement. But he's still, you know, he's still put protected in quotes. He said, you know, this was originally supposedly designed to protect Britney Spears, but, you know, it's really clearly being used to keep information from the public. And I just think that I think it was almost humorous the way that Sam Ingham was just allowing a little bit of sarcasm and a little bit of almost disdain, not so cleverly veiled disdain.
I don't know if you follow like my Instagram, like I do like line by line analysis of court documents when they come out.
Yeah.
I was doing like a line by line, and when I got to the conclusion, I literally say in that video, y'all, Sam Ingham took a writing workshop. Like, this brief is on fire. It was so good.
It really was. I think there's one topic that I think that a lot of people are debating right now, and I don't think it's important. So I just want to, you know, have a quick discussion about that, because I think people are focusing their energy in the wrong place. And I think what I mean by that is that A lot of people are speculating whether or not Sam Ingham is now speaking out in favor of Britney because of his own personal interest to cover his own ass because of everything that's going on in the media, or if he always had the best intentions for her and was unable to make a move that would actually make an impact until now. So I think that that's something that people are heavily debating, and I don't necessarily think that's important. Here's why. I don't think that we should be focusing on what his intentions are, because regardless of what it is, both of those intentions require him to put his efforts in favor of Britney's personal interests. So as long as what he's doing is in her best interest and is supporting her freedom, I think that we should just be focused on moving forward and what the next steps should be from there. Because I just don't think it's important to sit here and debate on whether or not Sam is, is doing what he's supposed to be doing because he wants to, or because he's scared of himself. You know what I mean? What would happen to himself. So I just think that that's something that should be quickly addressed.
Yeah, if that was yeah, I think I agree. I think, if someone asks me what I think, I give an answer or whatever, but
Of course.
I agree that the thing that is important is he started doing his job sometime, somehow. And
exactly.
Great. I think someone tweeted this morning, Liam, if you're here, call out. No, I'm just kidding. But we don't even need Sam. And it's like, I wish that were true.
Yeah.
We really do need him because he's the only person with, like, for sure, 100%, I know for a fact, access to her. Everyone else, I don't know who has access to her. But I do know that if Sam Ingham is saying that Britney said something, like, I believe that if he files it in a court of law under penalty of perjury. And so I don't even know if he is acting in her best interest for the sake of it. But again, like you mentioned, what is really important, I guess, at the end of the day, is getting her out of this conservatorship. And it looks like we're taking steps in the direction away from the status quo, which I think is good. Progress. I know that I wish she was free right now.
Exactly.
Reality.
I mean, but Rome wasn't built in a day. And I mean, we have had so many social justice progressions, but you can see how long it's taken for certain laws to be put in place to protect people of color, which are still on the fence. They still haven't been passed. And I just think that that's just one example of how long social justice can take. And for me personally, I would rather listen to something that Sam Ingham has to say in the court of law than Jason Alexander. And that is an unpopular opinion amongst the fans, because I think a lot of fans are grateful for his, him coming forward to speak. But unfortunately, this is just my personal opinion, I believe that if anything, Jason Alexander has his own interest in mind. I don't think he said the wisest things. And I also don't think that a lot of what he said has been things that we didn't already know. And not only that, but the things that he said are from someone who hasn't been in physical contact with her in 10 years. So I don't know how much of a reliable source that is.
Same thing about Sam Ingham that I do about Jason Alexander, and that is, I don't care about his intentions.
Yeah.
Saying it fits with what I need him to say. Moving on. But again, and I see people making comments, so I do just want to address, this is not me. I don't want to speak for you. I'll let you speak. But this is not me excusing Sam Ingham's complete non-performance the last 12 years.
Oh, no. I definitely agree.
Constitutional, the fact that he even has this job. So criticize away. I will continue to do so. He has a very shady past. He's been involved in a lot of accusations and allegations of abuse. So I'm not dismissing any of that. I'm saying right now, he's doing what we need him to do, finally, and we can continue criticizing.
No, yeah, and so that's not what I'm saying about Jason. What I'm saying about Jason is, once again, similarly to Brian, he's kind of shot his own credibility. He inserted his own personal opinions and his own personal interests within things that were so-called facts and whenever he was giving interviews. And I think that was kind of, it's really easy to kind of point, not from my side, playing devil's advocate, for Britney's team to point out and say, this person hasn't really been around for 10 years. And, he clearly is interested in Britney personally, because he made a comment at the rally that was something along the lines of, he said, he was like, why, Sam obviously isn't the right guy for Britney. Why else would she reach out to me and say how much she misses me and, like, call me on the phone last night for hours and blah, 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 blah. And I'm just thinking in my head, I'm like, it doesn't with me when it comes to something in mind. When you're sitting there with a smug grin on and you're supposedly speaking about facts. What'd you say?
Sorry, every Was it my internet connection?
It just glitched for me. I don't
Okay.
know.
Me too. Maybe it was just an Instagram thing. Yeah, no, I agree with you. And speaking of Jason Alexander, I actually asked someone else on a live this last night, and I'll just ask you, this is like more of a speculation. What do you think? What's your opinion? Fun question. But I hear all these rumors, right? That this person, so and so, and Alice and Jenny and XYZ has contact with Britney Spears. Of all of the people, including like Jason Alexander, everyone in the whole world, who do you think has contact with Britney, if anyone? This is just speculation for fun.
I think that Sam Asghari has the most unbiased contact with Britney. And what I mean by that is he is kind of in the same situation as Britney, not as severely, but he's kind of trapped as well. So his contact with Britney, his experience with Britney is probably the most similarly to what her perspective would be. I think that would be, if he were ever to come out and say something, I think that would be the most reliable. And that is an extremely unpopular opinion because a lot of people, including Jason Alexander, believe that Sam is like a poster boy and he's kind of hired and he's gay and like all these things, which I think are completely slanderous. Especially considering that I have spoken to people who are not publicly known, who do speak to Britney and have spoken to Britney very frequently in the last few months. I definitely think that Sam Ingham is a reliable source, considering the fact that he is Britney's personal legal representation, which regardless of the way that that came about in the rest of his past, he is the only person who we are able to currently speak to or get direct statements from that are from Britney's perspective. Because once again, Sam Asghari is under a certain agreement that keeps him from being able to speak out, as well as many people who are personally around her. I think that it's really great to look into kind of more circumstantial witnesses, similarly to Billy B, because Billy B wasn't saying something specifically about, you know, what he thinks is going on. Billy B was speaking about his personal experiences and personal interactions with Britney. So that wasn't him saying, you know, this is what I know for sure is going on. And he's, speaking about something he doesn't necessarily know. He was focusing on his own personal experiences in the past and the negative things that he witnessed while he was there. The one thing I do want to say is I think a lot of fans, they aren't aware of exactly what happened when Britney was put under the legal counsel of Sam Ingham. And I just think to understand the entire perspective of why maybe Sam is speaking up now, because I know that we kind of just don't want to make that we don't necessarily make that the focus. However, I know that after this live, if there's no sort of closure on it, people are going to continue talking about it. And I just want to make sure that we can get back to talking about what's important. So I just wanted to say that a lot of fans do not know that part of the reason why Sam may be choosing to speak up now, if for his own sake, if that was the case, would be that in 2007 and 2006, when Britney was originally hospitalized, allegedly her father signed off on and subjected her to electroshock therapy, which left her in such a state of bewilderment that allowed them to be able to, Sam Ingham specifically, to come to the hospital with the psychologist and evaluate her for about 15 minutes, which gave them basically the diagnosis that she had dementia and also that she was unable to attend her own hearing and that she...
Yeah, so I do know the legal part of it. What I've never heard before right now is the aspect about everything else checks out with the legal documents that you just said. The Sam Ingham is, according to the legal documents, the one who recommended Stephen Marmer and then ultimately ended up being James Sparr as the doctor. That checked out. Then the 15-minute evaluation from Sam Ingham with the doctor, whatever, I heard about that too. But I have not heard about any electroshock therapy. But so what you're saying is the theory or what is it?
So I have seen records as well as firsthand accounts of people who were there at that time. Not only a person who worked at that hospital, which obviously I can't release that information because that would be a direct breach of contract and confidentiality, and also from someone who was there around Britney at that time personally, someone who's close to her. And once again, I can't talk about that, so that's why I'm saying allegedly, because I can't sit here and give you the information that can prove that, even though I've seen it.
I want you to incriminate anyone or get anyone in trouble. So I'm definitely not asking for any details. If you can't give them, please don't on this live.
But basically, he allegedly subjected her to electroshock therapy to treat her psychosis, which left her in such a state of bewilderment that they were able to diagnose her with dementia because it caused A, permanent memory loss from the past, chunks of memory that she has issues with that she can't remember to this day, that she has to be reminded of, and B, she struggled with remembering basic things going forward at that time or things that were happening. So she was very kind of like, she was very out of it. She was, like I said, she was left in this kind of state of bewilderment, and they were able to bring that doctor in to evaluate her, and they were able to, that's why you see the dementia diagnosis, and it was specifically designed to allow her from having any sort of say on what her terms of the conservatorship would be. It was an intentional move. It was not, she's so spiraling out of control, so we have to figure out how to do something in a quick, as quick as possible. It wasn't that kind of spur of the moment. There is evidence that the conservatorship in general was something that had been planned out at least a month and a half in advance.
Have you heard anything about Lou Taylor's Mercy Ministries connection?
I have not gotten any sort of information about that, so I can't speak anything about it.
Because there are allegations against, so you know who Lou Taylor is, right? Like Britney.
Of course.
So she has made, like, and this is documented, you can look it up on the internet, like, places. I always like to say where sources are, because people are like, how do you know that?
Of course.
She has donated lots of money, time, etc., to this project called Mercy Ministries. They had a branch in Australia, and there are allegations from women who stayed there. It's supposed to be like a Christian, like, recovery camp for women, young women who are going through hard times, whether it be struggling with addiction or substance abuse or use or, pregnancy. And Lynn Spears wrote in her book Through the Storm or whatever that Lou Taylor recommended sending Jamie Lynn Spears to a camp sort of like this, a stay-away camp until she had the baby whenever she got pregnant in like 2008 or whatever.
Yeah.
So the allegations against this place, and again, you can look them up, this is not from me.
It's public knowledge.
Are that there was like exorcisms, and people who had like anxiety were being prayed for, like they had anxious demons, and like LGBT women or LBT women.
LGBT.
Well, yeah, I guess, whatever, women.
No, I get it.
There, staying there, were subject to forms of gay conversion therapy, allegedly, according to these allegations, that they were like exercised and laid hands on and stuff. And so while I do think that it is hard to believe that, like, in, just broad daylight, they're electroshock therapying people, whenever you do have allegations against people in this conservatorship, it doesn't make it as far of a leap, right? Like, we see that.
Yeah, it's not a reach.
Case. And crazy things that I've seen myself in court documents, that if you told me that I would see that on the most famous pop icon at all, I would not believe it. And Mars, that's why I'm so deep into this. When I saw your video, my first thought was, this is fake. This cannot be happening.
And it is.
What was happening?
I think that Lou Taylor has often been kind of portrayed in the media as, and by biased media towards her, it's always been as this kind of like saint figure who is like, it's almost like a mother figure to her clients. And then by people who are aware of certain allegations and things that she's been involved with in the past, she's kind of seen as this hyper religious, almost not, I wouldn't say exactly manic, but almost like an extreme anxiety to the point of, actually, it reminds me a lot of OCD. It reminds me a lot of OCD, where it almost feels like she feels the need to subject people who she is over to complete and total control. She has to have complete and total control that's why I believe that her and Jamie Spears work very well together over whoever it is that is her clients, which is why she has this kind of history of attempting to put people under conservatorships, as we also saw with Lindsay Lohan. People who are...
Make a real quick interjection. Sorry, Mars. People are confused about what is going on. We are talking about a camp or a rehab type of recovery center that Lou Taylor is known to have ties to. there, we have no evidence that Britney was in this place.
Of course.
No evidence Britney was there. I'm just saying Lou Taylor has ties to it. Also, the Britney Spears Foundation, if I recall correctly, went from like 50 something thousand dollars in their bank account to $17 in their bank account. And that whole sum had gone, I believe, to organizations, one of which was Mercy Ministries. So we're talking about the ties that Lou Taylor had to this camp. And now Mars is elaborating on this like religious kind of, where they have like gay demons over there. I'm calling it a camp. I don't know what it's called, but it's,
yeah. It's
like
probably some sort of retreat or a program. It's probably what they refer it to as. Just to me, Lou Taylor is the worst of both worlds. I mean, she's on one hand she's seen as this extremely religious character, but then on the other end, she is literally called Lucifer because we see this sort of it's almost like a super like impulsive greed and lying. She's very, very, very defensive. I don't know if you've seen recently screenshots of her replying to comments on posts of talking about her, and she's super defensive the whole time. And like, I think she also enjoys the attention to some degree as well, as we've seen with the post about her Reddit account. Nobody was talking about the fact that Lou Taylor had a secret Reddit account. There was like a small group of people that were kind of like discussing it, I think on Reddit actually, but she made it into this huge deal. And it caused a lot of other news outlets and people to look into it personally, which just completely and totally put all of this attention on her. I just think it's really odd that someone who is so uninterested in this negative attention has provoked people to invest this negative attention onto them. I just think there's this weird incongruence that I just don't agree with, and I don't find it makes any sort of sense. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't add up.
So what have you had a chance to see Britney's? A lot of people are asking, and I know like this is
I didn't see it before we got on the phone.
Facts and law and stuff, but like we're gonna do it. We're gonna talk about Project Rose. If you had a chance to see Britney's what is it called? I keep
Instagram story?
Story. Yes.
Okay, is it still up?
Is it still up? I think so.
Okay, I haven't seen it yet, so I have to go look at it.
Oh.
I have it on my laptop right here.
It yet? Oh wow. Okay. Good.
I'm about to look for it. Hold on. Let's see. Yeah, because okay, so Project Rose is a personal photo project. Get ready for more on my Instagram. Hold on, let me play the video.
Yeah, play her video.
Is she talking? Because I can't hear her.
Yeah,
oh.
Talks.
Oh,
Mars, they want you to show them the video. Are you able to do that, or are you using your...
I can't. I mean, I'm on my laptop, but it's not even playing the audio, and I don't know why. Maybe because I'm on my laptop. Hold on. See, I'm trying to see it, and it's not. See, it's like I have the... Okay, it's working now. Okay.
Are not new, but they're old. But just to let you guys know, none of my pictures or posts are more than a month old. Yes, I know, I did wear the same top 17 times, but it's for a project.
I love her.
Project Rose.
Okay.
And you will be seeing way more of Project Rose in the future.
Okay.
But it's for a project. I love her.
She's like, I have worn the same shirt 17 times.
And
what? What about it?
It out. Like, I'll just tell you, because I know you just saw it for the first time.
Yeah.
So, like, some of the things I thought were interesting that people pointed out. One, she obviously has a little sarcasm in her voice. Like, it's kind of like the sass, the punch, the timing.
Yeah.
Can someone with dementia, like, who needs to be, like, does someone with dementia for 12 years have that ability to, like, pop back? Like, yeah, I wore 17 times. I don't... You know,
she's emoting in a way that's very characteristic of Britney in 2003. There is a video on YouTube that is a body language and analysis of her from the past and comparing it to recently. And up until actually this last year, she has exhibited a lot of that same, the way that she expresses and emotes that she has before the conservatorship. And obviously it's been progressively more and more robotic and a little bit off. But at the same time, she's still, before this year, she has been a lot more emotive like she normally would be. This seems very much so, she seems very present, which I haven't seen a lot from her.
And so also people are saying, wait, is it, when did she make this video? Does she have access to her Instagram? Does she not? Did she post that? Was it actually alive? Do you have any like gut feelings off the bat?
I have no idea when the video was recorded. I don't have any idea as to that. But what I will say is that I'm not exactly sure that it was recorded and then posted directly after. I think she probably recorded the video and it was approved and then posted. Maybe that was previously and it's just now being posted, or it was recorded today and then approved. But Britney does not have direct access to her Instagram stories, which is, I wanted to say really quickly, that is the reason why Sam Asghari, her boyfriend, ripped the phone away from her when she said she was on live on his phone, because when he's together, when they're together, he tries to give her access to that sort of thing as much as possible, but there are certain rules that Sam has to kind of constrict his behavior to as well. There are certain constituents that Sam has to follow in order to have unsupervised visits with Britney or unsupervised time with Britney. So if Sam were to violate that by allowing her to go live on Instagram, that could get her in trouble and it could prevent them from being allowed to spend unsupervised time together. And also it would, at that point, she wouldn't have any sort of access to freedom or the outside world, because we know she doesn't already whenever she's at home. So I wanted to clear that up really quickly because people hate Sam. And I just wanted to clear that up because people thought it was very controlling or very kind of abusive. And I just think it was his instant reaction to trying to, it was shocking. It's not something that's supposed to happen. So it was his instant reaction. He was trying to give me the phone and like took it away and turn it off. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And we see the same thing here. It's obviously an improved video. Because if she had access.
First came in, right, 7 whole entire weeks ago at this point, not that long ago, I was suspicious of everyone who had access to her, because I assumed the Team C ship has to approve, you have to sign the NDA, you have to agree to their terms. There have been some people in the movement who are super facts-based, super, by the book, and they're like, no, we trust and believe Sam. And so it kind of has pulled me more over that way. So I'm kind of like, but I'm going to be honest, when I first saw the screenshot, obviously I didn't see the video, it was so short. I was kind of like, doesn't look good. But I think actually quite a few people do agree with you and kind of stand on the, like, he's doing the best he can. And now I'm kind of coming around to, like, I don't know, really, honestly, I don't have the facts on him. I don't know. So I guess I won't assume he's bad.
I just have personal accounts of people who do know him and have seen the way that him and Britney interact. So that's how I at first initially got my opinion on Sam, because I didn't like Sam. I thought he was hired. I thought he was, because we've seen that with other past relationships that Britney's father has a complete and total direct control over who she's with, which lends itself to the opinion that he is a handler, especially considering that, as you know, the original terms of the conservatorship say that they are allowed to have a 24-hour attendant or handler with her. And so I thought that, and I actually had to make a public apology on my TikTok that was apologizing to Sam directly, because I got information following that post that pointed to the fact that Sam was not a handler, and that Sam and Britney actually love each other, actually want to have a baby together, they want to get married, and they're not being allowed to do so. I believe my own personal theory about the reason why that Sam has not spoken out, or Sam is allowed to spend time with her if Jamie hates him so much, I think is because he has threatened to break his NDA. And I think if he did do that, it would be so difficult for him, because he would instantly be sued for, his pants would be sued off, and it would cause a lot of issues for him, and he wouldn't be allowed to spend time with Britney at all or see her at all. And I think it would just mess everything up, because at that point, there's no way for him to protect her or to be around her and kind of keep things from happening as much as possible. And I think basically that he has threatened to break his NDA. And I think in return, they've worked out some sort of terms for an agreement, not necessarily a written agreement, but like a verbal agreement to say, hey, we will allow you to have some sort of time with Britney, because originally Sam was not quarantining with Britney. Sam was not in the house staying with Britney all the time. So that's my personal theory on the reason why he's been allowed to still have contact with her, because I think otherwise he would cause a lot more issues, and for everybody, including himself. And so I just don't think they want to go through that.
Heard that, and I also haven't thought of it, that he would threaten, right, to break the NDA. I wanted to say, though, about the post. So we're only halfway done.
Yeah.
If you go to google.com and look up Project Rose, I won't even tell you. Why don't you do it? Tell me the very first thing that comes up.
Project Rose, an oppression as rescue. Project Rose, well, no, hold on, yeah, that's the first one. HumanTraffickingCenter.org. That's
like, it's
crazy.
Like deep in Google. It's the first thing that comes up.
It's the first Google result. That's really... This program is ostensibly designed to rescue victims or survivors of sexual exploitation, yet there is no form of victim identification at any point in the process. Rather than attempting... That's interesting. This is interesting.
Everybody else, like, I know y'all are all about to pile off of this live to go see Project Rose, but you can check it yourself. Like, I do not want people to call me a conspiracy theorist, but here's the facts. Britney Spears being coerced to work. She has said in a court document she doesn't want to work anymore. Andrew Wallet and Team Conservatorship are petitioning to allow them to make contracts for her to work. That is trafficking. That sounds like conspiracy theory, but it is.
By legal perspectives?
The first thing that shows up. It's like, how is it, like, I want someone to dispute, like, what else could explain that?
I just think that it's very... I think that it's very odd that... Sorry, this just popped into my head because this is also part of the court document that Jamie was trying to argue, or Britney's team was basically trying to argue that that the fact that she doesn't want to work is clear sign of her mental deterioration. I just thought that was really weird. I was like, if anything, it shows that you are forcing her to do something that she doesn't want to do. Imagine signing something up for someone that they don't want to do, and then when they agree not to, when they didn't agree to it in the first place, and the day comes and they say, I'm not doing that, then you're like, oh, she's crazy. What?
Someone said the funniest thing on Twitter. I'm so sorry, I don't remember who you are, otherwise I would give you... Oh, Cherie, share something. Cherie, I shared it, y'all can go look at it. She said, or they said, okay, so Jamie says Britney has dementia.
Yeah.
Imagine going to complain to a court because a dementia patient won't work harder.
He's a clown. He's a clown. I'm just like, it's so difficult to sit here. Like, okay, so like the main argument against the Free Britney movement up until this point is like, hey, you don't have proof. You know, you don't have statements from Britney. You don't have any sort of hard evidence to back this up. So it's a conspiracy theory. So why is it that Jamie Spears is allowed to come out in the interview, say absolutely nothing, and then be like, you guys are horrible. This is a lie and it's a joke. And that's supposed to be taken as fact.
Judge Penny, I told my adult daughter to work and she said, no, let me keep her money. Like, what is wrong with you?
It's just like, it doesn't make any sense. And I think, here's the thing. I think that there's something that's going on that I think people are not realizing. People are saying, well, at this point, you know, Jamie Spears and Lou Taylor have made millions and millions of dollars, so it can't just be about that. Okay, Jamie Spears and Lou Taylor, they're miserable human beings. It's so obvious. But besides that, when you mistreat someone, that can basically be reprimanded in the court of law in a way that can be reprimanded in the court of law. When you do that, you can't just stop doing what you're doing to keep the person from talking. I think that at the first few years, maybe it was mostly about greed. Maybe Jamie was, allegedly, reportedly, Jamie was very, very kind of intrigued and interested by the idea of being able to have complete control over Britney's career, obviously with the advice of Lou Taylor and her business managers and whatever, but because they had a hard time getting Britney to do what they wanted to do. So maybe that's what it was in the beginning, but I think that after a few years of that, you can't just stop doing that, let this person be free, and then not expect your life to be over. Because as soon as Britney's allowed to speak about what's going on, if they don't give her like medical lobotomies to the point basically where she's not able to, be coherent anymore, their lives are over. Their careers are over. So this is not just them being greedy at this point. This is them covering their own asses to the degree of abusing someone else and having to basically double down on their bad behavior to ensure that year after year that they're able to keep this person under this medical, personal, and professional contract.
Yeah, because they're not just keeping her right under a contract, they're also keeping all of those skeletons in the closet.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought that, it's really interesting because I thought, I have this like image of you of like being on top of all the news and knowing all the tea immediately before everyone else. And so it's actually cool and interesting to like watch you see something for the first time and like.
No, well, I've just had to I've had some very serious threats to my personal safety, and I've had some very serious issues with mental health following that because of that. And so I've had to take a step back. And on top of the fact that most of my sources have not been able to get in contact with Britney following the original trial that was postponed, I haven't been able to get a lot of inside information anyways, but I've just had to take a step back because there have been some very, and I don't just mean death threats or phone calls, those were bad enough, but I've had some very other serious physical threats to my safety that I have had to address and take care of and respond to accordingly. So I haven't been able to be as involved with things as I have been wanting to. And it's only caused people to dislike me more, but I can't really do anything about it. I just kind of have to focus on it, on myself the best way that I can while still being able to do right by the situation, because this is not just something that I do because it's gotten me attention. If anything, I'm kind of upset about the fact that this is what's got me attention, because I have to work extra hard to try to do something else and make people pay attention to that as well. But I do this because of the person that it's about and because it's important to me. But yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely odd seeing myself see something for the first time in front of everyone else. The only other time I've done that was with Brian's interview, which I had previously watched a little bit of, but I wanted to go through and analyze it with my followers online, which I did a couple months ago. But that's the only other time really that I've, been able to get firsthand information in front of an audience. So I definitely appreciate that experience because it is a way for me to almost humanize myself. It's not just me it's not just me being like this face, a face that with a bunch of information that's being fed to me. It's me being able to see information that other people have gathered. So,
so it's also really ironic that this is exactly what you're talking about right now, because, this is none of our job.
Yeah.
This is none of our obligation or duty. We're all doing this because we see a human rights violation. I truly believe that. And as you're saying this, right, I see a comment that scrolls by, and I'm sorry if whoever said it is still here, like I have to make an example, but it was like, how is this legal? So even I am put in a situation where it's like, if I'm not posting the exact content that people expect of me as if this is my job, I can't just come on here and kiki with the first person I learned about the Free Britney movement
right.
with. I got to be giving y'all a legal lecture after I studied for the bar all day. So
exactly.
It's happening to me, but I thankfully haven't gotten any threats to my personal that's not acceptable. And
it's been really horrifying.
You definitely don't need to go into any more detail. But I think that's horrible, and I don't think that's acceptable. And I absolutely be doing the same in your position, taking care of my own mental health and kind of doing what you can, because ultimately it's kind of like that point analogy, right? Like, you can't breathe the oxygen mask, if you didn't, you can't put the oxygen mask on what is it to sell somebody else first?
And so it's like you can't save someone else until you are making sure that you're in a place where you're stable and protected.
Put an oxygen mask on somebody else. So
yeah.
I don't know. I'm like from the country. We don't really have.
No, I'm from the South. I get it. No.
Oh, good.
But no, but I was gonna say I think it's really funny that you mentioned that people expect they expect the legal jargon from you basically, and I think it's really funny because you're basically the Kim Kardashian of the Free Britney movement.
What?
Yeah, it's so funny because so many people are talking about, you know, because Kim Kardashian has done a lot for prison justice reform and social justice reform in that way, and kind of trying to reform the legal system as much as possible without even being licensed. And she's working on actually, you know, she's working on studying for, she's doing the baby bar, and then she's not actually going to law school. She's doing it. I think in the state of California, they have that internship program where you
Yeah.
can do it that way, and you have to take multiple tests. And yeah, so that's what she's doing. But I think it's really funny because people are like, why isn't Kim Kardashian talking about this? And like, first of all, our specialty is prison justice reform. This is a little different, but also I think it's great that we do have someone who does have legal knowledge, who's able to come in and have access to certain things and understands the way that certain things are written in official documents. And you know, I do think it's extremely helpful and special. I'm just having this conversation with a friend of mine earlier, saying, you know, I'm super grateful for someone who has a different perspective, to be able to join it. So I'm very grateful for you.
Yeah, no, and I was just talking actually to my boyfriend maybe today or yesterday, and I was saying, you know, I think like I'm kind of in a unique position because I'm kind of like from the South and kind of from a really blue collar background. And like everyone who I know in my life and my family before I went to law school is like ordinary, regular people. And so
That's
the whole
me.
time I was in law school, I was kind of learning how to translate really between very complicated, antiquated, meticulous language, all these pages. And then my family asked me, hey, you know, what did you do at school, you know, today or this week or whatever? I had to be able to simplify those terms to give it to them. And so I feel like not a lot of people have had to be forced in that situation. And it kind of puts me in a really cool spot where I can kind of reach into different aspects of the movement and say like, oh, I can take something from there and give credit to this person and that person, because I kind of feel like I can explain like Stonebridge, right? Like it's not hard to
You're
explain
like an interpreter.
writing, but like
You're,
if you translate it into like regular people terms, you don't have to go to law school for it. I feel like that's kind of like what's really fun about it for me is like interacting with so many different types of people.
you know, you're definitely like the translator interpreter of everything. And I think a lot of people are super grateful for you. I was very, very, very appreciative of you taking an initiative to contact me when you were able to access legal documents and being able to tag me in those posts. And I just want to let you guys know, if there's anyone here that watches my videos, that even if I'm not able to respond to all the comments and you tagging me in videos, or if I'm not able to reshare or repost or duet all those videos, that I see them as much as I can, and I really do pay attention, and I'm very appreciative for everyone who wants to send information, and that includes you especially, because you're one of the first people to do that. So
Oh, good.
um
I know that. Oh, really? That's so
yeah, well, because what I was saying is that a lot of people don't have access to, you know, legal databases and that sort of information, even for publicized records. You know, people aren't necessarily able to translate those or interpret them in a way that makes sense. Um,
so. How
so
long have you kind of been part of the Free Britney movement, like of proper, right? I was talking to Tomo Spears last night. He said there's kind of been like three waves of it, right? Like first wave, like way back when like Breathe Heavy was like established and Georgia and all that. Then like kind of this other period of time where there was like, you know, after the 2019, she was admitted, kind of when that rally started and stuff. And then like the Moonwalk Mars era. And I definitely consider myself to be in that one, like the third wave. So how long
yeah,
have you actually been a part of the movement?
first of all, that was really weird. The Moonwalk Mars era, that's really weird.
Oh, I
But
think
I
it's
just
thing. Like it was like a yeah, in that period of time, a bunch of people came on.
No, I get it. No, it definitely I definitely think that my video was a catalyst to reignite this, you know, the fire behind this movement. I definitely think that it kind of kind of invigorated the movement, and I will say that. But I used to be a part of Breathe Heavy and Exhale back when I was like 11, 12 years old. And I used to come home after school every day. I was bullied very, very severely in school, and I was mistreated, and I would come home and there was nobody, kind of similarly to you. I know I do have kind of this, everyone in my surroundings, kind of this like Republican conservative Southern town, smaller town. Not, I wouldn't say it's a super small town for where I live, but if you were to compare where I live to like, you would think, you know, New York City or something like that, it's extremely, extremely small and not as cultured. Um, so nobody was really interested in the things that I was interested in. There was a certain expectation to fit into a box. And so I used to come home all day after school, and I would, you know, interact with people who liked things that I liked, who cared about, you know, an artist that I cared about. And I found Britney, this is a really quick story, but I found Britney when I was with my sister, I think, and I was playing, we were on this like Barbie website, we were playing games. It was just this video game, like this little kid game. And there was this American Idol game, and like Barbie sang the chorus of Oops, I Did It Again. I was like, what is this song? I love this song. My mom was like, oh, that's Oops, I Did It Again by Britney Spears. And I said, Britney Spears. I remember being obsessed with the fact that that was her real name, because at that time I had grown up to think that all celebrities had stage names. I thought that all celebrities had fake names. I didn't think so I thought that it was so cool that Britney Spears was her real name. And that's how I found Exhale. And I had been on there for about, I think I was there for about 2 or 3 years. And things started to really change in the atmosphere and the environment of people who were on that website, and also the types of things that were allowed to be talked about and things that weren't allowed to be talked about. And there was a certain beginning of this sense of kind of big brotherness to the website, and there was some censorship that I noticed, and I didn't, even at that young age, I think when I stopped using it, I was about 13 or 14. I stopped, I stopped, and I couldn't do it anymore because I just thought it was really odd. So, but we always used to talk about, basically the point of this, so we used to talk about, Britney's freedom and things that we would notice with, she'd be walking down a red carpet or in the airport, and she would be ripped away forcibly from signing autographs, or how sick or out of it she looked when she was performing at the Femme Fatale tour. We would talk about the lack of movement whenever she would go to dance, and how easy and simplified the choreography had become, and compared interviews of her speaking to the past. And it sounds reductive, but at that time, it was the only way for us to kind of try to make sense about what was going on, because all of us were obviously aware of the conservatorship, but I think we were becoming aware of the toll that it had taken on her. Fast forward to 2019. Obviously, I've been a huge Britney fan. I went to Las Vegas to see her 2015, and she was exceptional. I think 2015 of the Vegas residency was one of the best years. I think that, and then 2017. But yeah, I was very lucky to be able to go there, fly across the country to see her. And it was funny, when I was there, her dancer gave me a high five, and she winked at me. Britney winked at me. Literally, I was there in the standing pit in the front. But I've always really cared about her personal safety, because we've obviously seen this fluctuation in not weight, but the way that she looks and the way that she interacts, and how long it may take her to respond cognitively to a question and things like that. And the type of choppy, edited, kind of like jump cut it type interviews and videos that we've seen, as well as behind the scenes footage of music videos where she's been screaming that she doesn't like it, she feels uncomfortable, she wants to stop, things like that. In 2019, whenever she decided that she was going to drive unsupervised, well, actually it was supervised, it was with Sam, but without permission, to In-N-Out to get a cheeseburger, and then was subsequently thrown in a mental facility for 3 months, and they lied about it and said that she was only there for 3 weeks. I think that was really the spark of the real Free Britney movement, if that makes sense. The actual, at least somewhat acknowledged movement by the general public and by the mass media. That was the first kind of real acknowledgement that it had gotten. But I think that the mistake and the misstep at that time was the fact that people were not providing enough information about what was actually happening or what it actually meant. So people were saying hashtag Free Britney and seeing it on social media, but they weren't understanding what it meant. They thought it was a joke, because, internet memes all the time.
I think, Mars, like up until pretty recently, that was probably the state of the movement, where you had the really informative accounts putting out the information, like Lawyers 03, love them both, favorite. Like, they would put information out. Other accounts would put out corporate documents or law documents, but it was kind of like, it wasn't trickling down for some reason to the main, like the general population, right? I mean, I definitely think like people got a hint or a wind in 2009 whenever she was put in the hospital for 3 weeks / months. But I still think, like you said, like even then, like no one really knew. Like it was like, okay, Free Britney, but like from what? And people would say like, maybe she wants it, maybe she needs it, maybe she this, maybe she that. And it was like, I think over the last, I mean, probably since before I came into the movement, but certainly I've noticed since I came into the movement, there has been a switch of that doesn't work. Maybe she wants it. We have court documents that say she doesn't, right? Maybe she's okay with her dad being in charge. Nope, we have court documents that say she doesn't. We have records that say she. So we're starting to like tear down all
And
of
letters,
videos, voicemail messages,
public statements from other people who have interacted with her through multiple periods in her life that have very pretty much consistent statements. They all have consistent perspectives, no matter on whether it was 2008 or 2020. But I think the difference is that as the time goes on, these people who are speaking out about their time period, as the years go by, it just gets progressively worse. It's the same scenario, but it just gets worse.
You're kind of like, wait a minute, that happened. She shaved her head in 2007. Why is she still not able to take a birth control pill or drive to the end? Like, this.
And then not only that, I mean, she's not allowed to use her phone. I mean, she's not allowed to have any sort of, she doesn't have knowledge about what her legal rights under her conservatorship are up until recently. She hasn't really understood what exactly she was and was not allowed to contest to at that time. And I think that, the fact that she has, she doesn't have access to the internet, or the fact that she had issues with connecting to her Zoom call for her court hearing, the most important day of the year for her, arguably, when everyone around her who was with her consistently was conveniently able to connect. Why can't the 3 bodyguards that Jamie Spears hired give her their personal hotspot so she can connect to the Zoom call? Like, what's going on? You know what I mean?
I want to read these comments real quick because we have some history.
We should answer some questions too.
So we have 3 minutes. Hope we don't get kicked off.
Well, if not, it'll let you rejoin.
Oh, good. Okay. So we have Touch of Pisces. Love you.
Love you.
Saying, I was the person who Sam Lufty gave me the emails about Lou in the first. Oh, God, I got so much crap for that. And then Britney.freedom says, same here. I got called a joke and this is made up. Like, it's so crazy because I think I got right, just kind of like hopped on the train at the last stop in a way where it's like, ain't nobody about to call me a conspiracy theorist. I got court documents. Like,
that's what I'm saying, is like people kind of take you seriously because of what you have access to.
Also that. I mean, that's true. Like, and for that, I feel an enormous amount of privilege, but also responsibility, because I do feel like it's, and I say this all the time like a broken record, it is so important to me for everyone to have access to knowledge in general, but especially about their rights. Like, it is so important for me for everyone to understand how the law works, good, bad, ugly. And I feel a kind of responsibility. Like, okay, I know I went to Ivy League law school. I know that I have the credentials. And people aren't going to be able to argue with me. Not even the New York Times. Reporter at the New York Times, do you have a law degree? No. Then you can't argue with me about the law. So it's like, I feel like a little bit of can't nobody tell me nothing, but also like a little responsibility, because it's like, I have this knowledge, I have this respect, and I'm going to tell the people who need to hear it.
We're on 2 different spectrums of the movement, and I think that you are entirely informative, and I try to mix in information with entertainment, because I feel my responsibility is to keep the general public interested. Because what I'm saying is, if I would have stopped posting any sort of conspiracy videos, which I hate making, by the way, but if I were to stop making those types of just purely entertainment videos, nobody would take anything that I was saying as anything that was meaningful at all. No one would pay attention. No, and I don't think there would have been as much of a kind of, is about to end.
We're going to get kicked off. So
and then we'll rejoin.
Everyone, we're going to let Mars finish that answer. And then if we get kicked off, we'll just rejoin, and it'll be like a Q&A and like a kiki and a like, whatever.
Yeah, we'll do that.
Really informative. If you're there for the law, like we might talk about law, but it's just going to be a hangout Q&A.
We'll talk about everything.
We'll talk about everything.
But yeah. How many minutes does it have left? Or what does it have left now? What'd you say?
In 30 seconds.
Oh, I was just going to say basically that I think that my responsibility is to entertain the public and keep the people who don't care actually interested, because otherwise I don't think there would have been as much of a response to all of the new stuff that's coming out right now if we hadn't have kept people interested in some way or the other. Do you get what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah, I do. And I was actually, I was just bragging about you too, because I'm on TikTok. Like, I have like nowhere near as many as you are followers, but I mean, I have a little following, and I had to figure out what types of content like works, doesn't work. And I will tell you, the videos that I'm like cussing out the president get the most views. The conspiracy-esque type videos where I'm like, oh, this is alleged, entertainment purposes only, they have hundreds of thousands of views. And then me going through court documents is like 1.6 thousand. And it's like, I think you're kind of a genius, because you space out those conspiracy theory videos enough to keep the engagement up, right? You've hacked the algorithm. you do these conspiracy theory, and then within them, you're like, facts, 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 facts. And you even kind of said that in a TikTok one time, but I think that it's actually pretty smart. And in fact, I've seen probably a dozen comments since this exact live has been going on of people saying Mars was how I found out about the movement too. And they're here on my Instagram now. So
I'm very appreciative of that.
okay, let's go to the next.
Okay, I'll be right back.
Okay, bye.